As you may have noticed, Monique and I are two of the older, or as our mentors so kindly say, more experienced foreign teachers in SFL prep. We've both built up many, many years of extensive experience in other work fields before we took up teaching EFL 20 or more years ago. God, we are old. And because of this, we may look at personal professional development from a slightly different angle than other teachers. Having worked in the military, in business consulting, in management, but also in primary schools and hospitality, which, despite the fancy name, also included cleaning dishes and toilets, we have learned to ask this question: is it really about content, or is it really about how you feel? Through experience, we've learned that almost anyone can do any job with proper training and feedback. However, how effective we and other people are at that job very much depends on how we approach the job mentally. We think a positive work attitude, and especially feelings of happiness, lead to a better result, especially in jobs that are done in a social environment such as a classroom. This for us was our starting point for our individual professional development program, and we want to thank Haldun and Asla for allowing us to do our own thing. In the following PowerPoint presentation, with our background comments, we will guide you through what we have done and found so far. Enjoy the ride, and if you have any questions, we'll be there for you at the end. Thank you.
Okay, let's first take a quick dive into recent history. Last year, at the beginning of October, CMDU informed us for the first time about the new setup of the professional development trajectory. During a meeting halfway that month, Haldun showed his mentees this horrifyingly clear slide, which guaranteed that I was totally lost and felt totally free to do whatever I wanted to do. This forced me into instant anxiety and into the need to admit that I would need support from a more gifted colleague. I looked around the packed room and immediately picked out the only other person present, Don, of course. He was also more than happy to share the burden. Did you hear that word? Happy. And we started brainstorming which topic would not drive us acutely insane. Pretty quickly, we decided that we are so good at what we do that we didn't need any more skills training. We also decided that we are at our happiest at work when we are actually in the classroom teaching, so we probably should concentrate on that. And voila, within 10 minutes, and officially this took us about 2 weeks, we had our official professional development goal.
I know this all sounds soft for an old American soldier, but you have to remember, I have a wife and 3 daughters at home, so by now I know all about how important feelings are. However, I made sure we kept on track and set out to answer every single question that Haldun and Asla gave us. As Haldun's were a bit more simple and more my style, we decided to answer those first and give these to both our mentors with the question if we could please, please, please do this project together. First of all, we decided on a literature search to find out if the experts agreed with our idea that a positive work attitude leads to a better result, especially in social environments such as a classroom. This was to be followed by a short written survey among all language teachers in the School of Foreign Languages to measure how positive they feel when they are actually in the classroom, whether they feel this influences their interaction with the students, their students' learning, and their own teaching experience. Third, follow-up interviews with a selection of teachers to see if they have tips on how to go into the classroom feeling more positive and extra ways to get more positive feedback from the classroom experience. And finally, classroom observations of each other and a selection of other teachers to see what makes them actually smile. All of this beautifully planned in time and meeting with Asla's and Haldun's full approval. And then, when we had finished phase 1, written a beautiful summary, designed and set out our survey, collected the findings, installed SPSS on Monique's 15-year-old laptop, and started the analysis in February, some minor Chinese problem really messed things up.
Okay, if you find it a minor Chinese problem, why is Trump so angry at them? Anyway, Corona has had us at home since March in a totally different home and work situation. And of course, this has had some consequences on our project. But the first stages have been covered without any major glitches. In phase 1, we started with an old-fashioned Google search for anything to do with happiness, work and classrooms, and this supplied us with a very satisfying amount of videos, books, blogs and articles that we all separately checked, highlighted and commented on. After that, we sat together, compared notes, and Don did the enormous job of copying all highlighted parts into a separate Word document for every source. I then sort of categorized it all into a few main topics, reorganized it, and all of a sudden we had a 14-page summary of a full history of the research into emotions, their role in the workplace, and especially in the classroom. All this with a specific focus on the emotion of happiness. We will cover the most important results of our literature search in a bit, but first let's also tell you about the second phase. Based on our literature findings, we put together a very simple, mere 78 question survey. Especially Haldun was not exactly impressed with this, and grudgingly we agreed that shorter might actually be better. So we ended up with only 13 questions. In January, with the help of teachers in every prep level and teachers and coordinators in second foreign languages and in freshman English, we set out 151 questionnaires among all full-time and part-time teaching staff in SFL. Within a week, our contacts provided us with the responses from 108 teachers and instructors, which means we had an incredible response rate above 70%. And then it was time to start thinking about analyzing all those responses, and with some help, I had SPSS downloaded on my slightly older but very reliable, just like me, university laptop. The data entering was a breeze, and I found my feet again doing the first analysis. And then, Corona.
Hardworking as my partner is, she took all the paperwork in her laptop home so she could finish the SPSS analysis in quarantine. Little did she know. Of course, you cannot use a university downloaded program on any internet connection. It only works when you're actually on the premises. I'm sure Monique must have felt heartbroken, but she behaved like a real trooper and didn't show anything but total relief that this project was on the back burner for a bit. What a girl! So, this means I will give you a taste of the literature results here and nothing yet from the survey. Just a big thank you again to all of you for filling them out. Those results will have to wait until next academic year, as will stages 3 and 4, the interviews and classroom observations. Aside from the real academic stuff, we were probably most impressed by the work of Sean Aker, one of the best representatives of the positive psychology movement. In his TED Talk, he asks a few very poignant questions and puts forward a very good and understandable theory on why we should try to start being happier right now. First of all, he explains that feelings of happiness change the brain by the dopamine they produce. This dopamine doesn't only make you smile, but it helps you to adapt faster, which in turn makes the world an easier place to live in. And this again makes you a happier person. So being happy is important, but then it is really up to you. Do you see happiness as a part of your future or of your present? Do you think you need success to be happy, or do you need to be happy to be successful? And finally, do you settle on being average, or are you striving to be the positive exception? Do you want to be the positive, happy exception without feeling weird about it? Here's what Sean Aker has to say.
If you can raise somebody's level of positivity in the present, then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain at positive performs significantly better than it does at negative, neutral, or stressed. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact, what we found is that every single business outcome improves. Your brain at positive is 31% more productive than your brain at negative, neutral, or stressed. You're 37% better at sales. Doctors are 19% faster, more accurate at coming up with the correct diagnosis when positive instead of negative, neutral, or stress, which means we can reverse the formula. If we can find a way of becoming positive in the present, then our brains work even more successfully.
We also learned from the literature that we can actually make ourselves happier people. Research has clearly shown that the amount of happiness you perceive, or at least the level at which you start perceiving happiness, is 50% genetically determined, but also 40% by intentional activities. Of course, we cannot change our genetics, but we can definitely influence our activities, practices, and to a lesser amount our life circumstances. But why would a happier life be important? Especially if we connect happiness to our working environment. Does it make a difference? It does, because happy people are more successful, have better work outcomes and good coping abilities, and as a result, they are bound to be more satisfied with their job and career and see minimal work stress. One of the most prolific authors and researchers in the area of emotions and how they interact with teacher and student classroom performance is Rosemary Sutton. She is a lot less fun on video, but her results are just as impressive as Sean Aker. Her research clearly shows that as teacher, some of the most frequent emotions we experience are joy, pride, anger, anxiety, and frustration. It is logical, but also research confirmed that teachers who feel happy and have little frustration have a different teaching experience than teachers who constantly feel frustrated and unhappy. Much of our joy and pleasure as teachers comes from watching students learn and make progress, especially after struggling initially. Getting to know students as individuals and having former students come back to visit us. Also, it has been proven that positive, happy teachers are more effective in the classroom than negative teachers. Students are more helpful, cooperative, and follow classroom rules and norms when they believe that their teachers care about them. All this has been confirmed more than once in serious academic research.
Finally, many sources who link happiness to better life quality and a better performance in the workplace, and this automatically includes the classroom, come back to a few proven methods to increase our perceived level of happiness within 21 days. You can see these in the following slide. And all it comes down to is feeling physically strong, sharing what you have, and most importantly, counting your blessings. Every day for 21 days, write down 3 things that have made you feel grateful, or even just 3 things that have made you smile during that day. We challenged Haldun to do this, and though he found it difficult, we think it did work. It is a positive, unending cycle. The happier you are, the more happiness you show, and the more positivity you get in return. Smile, and you will be smiled at. And if you apply this in the classroom, well, we hope that you enjoyed our presentation and will be with us again when we start doing our interviews to find out what makes you happy in the classroom so we can share all this knowledge and experience and become happier teachers ourselves. Now, please feel free to ask us any questions, make comments, congratulate us, or even invite us to lunch. Thank you for listening.